A lot of home buyers and real estate investors are interested to know about closing costs. Closing costs are fees and expenses associated with purchasing a property. These costs will vary depending on the type of loan you use and other factors, but they typically include similar fees. The seller may also be responsible for paying some of these costs. So, it's important to budget for closing costs when planning your purchase so that you can make sure you have enough funds to cover all associated expenses. Let's see what you're going to learn in this video. In this video, we're going to talk about closing costs. So by the end of this video, you're going to learn about the types of closing costs and also the fees and expenses associated with purchasing a property. Let's get started if you're ready. Understanding closing costs is important because it allows you to budget for the purchase of your home. Closing costs can vary significantly from one lender to another and may include fees such as title insurance, appraisal fees, survey costs, attorney fees, taxes, and a lot more. So technically, it's also important to understand what each cost covers and how it affects the total amount you will owe for the home. So why should you know about the closing costs before buying a property? Well, knowing about closing costs in advance can help you make a more informed decision when purchasing a house or a property. Alright, now let's dive into these fees. The most common fee is appraisal fee. An appraisal fee is a cost associated with the purchase of a property. So when you buy a property or real estate or when you want to invest in anything, don't you want to know the value of that asset before you purchase that? An appraisal technically is evaluating the market value of that asset. In this case, the appraisal fee is paid to a licensed appraiser for their service of evaluating the market value of the property. You may ask how this helps. This helps lenders determine how much money can be loaned, as well as confirming that the seller and buyer are entering into an agreement based on the fair market value. You want to make sure that you understand the value of the property before you buy it. Similarly, the bank that's giving the money to you for this purchase want to make sure that they're not giving you the money more than what you need. The appraisal fee for every market is different, but in the US, the appraisal fee typically ranges from $250 to $1,000 depending on the size and type of property being purchased. So if you're buying something like a multi-unit property, you may probably pay more for the appraisal fee, and if you're buying a condo or a single-family home, the appraisal fee is lower. Now that we talked about the appraisal fee, let's talk about the underwriting fee. An underwriting fee is a cost associated with verifying the information contained in a loan application. In any loan application, there are paperwork, there are documents that need to be verified. This includes checking a borrower's credit score, verifying employment history, and running an appraisal of the property. The cost of this fee varies and can range anywhere between $500 to $3,000 depending on the complexity of the loan. It's usually included in a borrower's total closing cost. So when you close on a property, that fee is included as part of the closing cost. Another important fee when closing on a property is called origination fee or origination fees. You may ask, what are the origination fees? Origination fees are costs associated with the preparation of a loan agreement. Whatever activity that goes into preparing a loan agreement, that's pretty much the origination activity. The origination fees cover the lender's administrative costs, such as processing and underwriting fees, and maybe other fees as well. This fee is typically a percentage of the loan amount and is paid when a borrower closes on the loan. It can range anywhere from less than 1% to 5% of the total loan amount and is usually included in the total closing costs. Now let's talk about attorney fees or legal fees. Attorney fees are costs associated with the legal aspects of purchasing a property. In certain situations, you may want to hire an attorney, and in certain situations, you may be forced to hire an attorney. For example, in the US, in the state of Illinois, if you're going to buy a property, the regulation forces you to hire a lawyer. But in certain places, you don't need a lawyer, but you simply hire a lawyer just to kind of properly take a look at the paperwork. So for whatever reason you need an attorney, you usually pay for an attorney to review and prepare loan documents as part of the closing process. Attorneys also help ensure that all legal requirements are met and help complete title searches to make sure that there are no issues with the ownership prior to signing any paperwork. So technically, the attorney fees can vary widely depending on the complexity of the transaction, the amount of time that it takes for the lawyers to kind of take a look at your paperwork, and also the size of the deal and the amount and the type of loan. Now that we talked about the attorney fees, let's talk about the title fees. In closing a mortgage, title fees can include things like the cost of getting a title search, title insurance, and deed recording. These fees vary depending on the location and other factors, and every city, every county, and every state may require different fees. So if you're buying a property in the state of California, the fees are different than buying a property in the state of New York or in the state of Massachusetts. Also, a title search for a commercial property is obviously very different than a title search for a regular standard single-family home. This fees covers an attorney or title company's costs for researching the history of the property to ensure that all claims to it have been settled, and you're not buying a property that has title issues and title problems. Now, the last fees that we're going to talk are the insurance fees. Anytime you buy a property, you have to buy some sort of insurance depending on the type of property. These fees may include title insurance, homeowner's insurance, mortgage insurance, as well as hazard and flood insurance depending on the state and location of the home. So each insurance has a different utility. For example, a title insurance protects the lender or buyer from liens and legal claims against their property. So if you're buying a property and you don't have a title insurance for it, and if the title has some sort of issues, you're liable for it. Pretty much most mortgage lenders will require you to have homeowner's insurance at the time of closing and for the duration of the loan. So remember, each policy is very different, so be sure to discuss options with the insurance company that you're going to choose. Insurance fees are important costs to real estate investors. So if you're a real estate investor and you are willing to invest in properties in certain places with the lowest insurance fees, you need to do your research. In certain states, the insurance fees, especially the homeowner's insurance fees, are really a lot. So if you're buying a single family home, for example, in the state of Florida, make sure that you do your research and you buy your real estate investments in certain places where the cost of homeowner's insurance are not too high. Otherwise, the insurance fees are going to impact your revenue, your cash flow, and your profits. Now that we talked about different closing costs in buying a property, there are a few housekeeping options that we'd like to talk about. The first one, you'll need to bring a cashier's check or proof of money transfer to cover costs due at closing when you're purchasing a property. Before applying for a mortgage, consult with a home lending advisor with questions about closing costs. Most banks and lenders typically can connect you with a home lending advisor to evaluate your financials. So you may ask, who is a home lending advisor? A home lending advisor is a financial and housing specialist that helps you review your finances, determine the best loan product, and provide guidance throughout the home buying process. The home lending advisors usually provide advice on different mortgage types, calculate payments, assess credit scores, and provide advice on budgeting and saving for a down payment. So it's really good to talk to them if the bank or your lender can provide one. That's pretty much it. We talked about closing costs in buying a property. Let's summarize. In this video, you'll learn about the types of closing costs and also the fees and expenses associated with purchasing a property. Thanks for watching.